What's going on, guys? Welcome in. I am Kadarius Washington, and you are watching the Sports Rundown. Yes, the Sports Rundown is finally back after a 2 week long, I believe, hiatus. The first week, I was just busy with a whole lot of stuff personally. And then last week, I spent most of the week covering the women's college basketball for the Power Four Conference Championships. But nevertheless, the sports rundown is back and is going to be back for a little while. So it's a pleasure to have you in. A lot of stuff happened in the world of sports, and we're going to go ahead and start with the NFL and free agency, as today is the start of the new league year. Beginning at 4 o'clock today, all of the free agency moves that have been made before today can and will become official. And believe me, there's been a lot of movement going on and a few moves that I want to get into as far as the quarterback carousel. Sam Darnold agreeing to a deal with the Seahawks after that incredible run with the Minnesota Vikings last year. You've got Justin Fields agreeing to a deal with the Jets coming from Pittsburgh. Zach Wilson agreeing to a deal with the Dolphins after a season in Denver and a horrible tenure with the Jets, might I add. Josh Dobbs agreeing to a deal with the Patriots. Jarrett Stidham agreeing to a backup role with the Broncos. Geno Smith heading to the Raiders, reuniting with his former coach in Seattle, Pete Carroll. You've got Kenny Pickett back in the AFC North with the Cleveland Browns and Jacoby Brissett going to the Cardinals. And I have a couple of deals here as far as this quarterback carousel is concerned I want to focus on. Number one, Daniel Jones agreeing to a deal with the Indianapolis Colts. Now listen, three things can be true at the same time when it comes to the Indianapolis Colts. Number one, the Colts are a very unserious organization. I mean, that team has been in disarray ever since Andrew Luck unexpectedly retired during the preseason in, I want to say, 2019. Number two, the Indianapolis Colts are turning into the Denver Broncos before Bo Nix and the Cleveland Browns when it comes to quarterback play. They had Luck. They've had Phillip Rivers for a year. They had Matt Ryan on his last leg. They just brought in Anthony Richardson a couple years ago in the draft who hasn't panned out. I believe they had Jacoby Brissett in that term. And now they're bringing in Daniel Jones. And the third thing is, so apparently, the Colts are going to have a quarterback competition between Daniel Jones and Anthony Richardson. And if Daniel Jones somehow, some way beats out Anthony Richardson for the starting quarterback role in Indianapolis, I think it might be officially time to declare Anthony Richardson a bust. I mean, at this point, I've pretty much run out of excuses for him. I mean, I've defended him a lot. I mean, at least I want to think I did. But if he loses his starting job to Daniel Jones, then I mean, I don't know what to tell him at this point. I mean, this quarterback draft class from I think 2023. I mean, that was the year with Bryce Young and CJ Stroud, who are right now looking like the best quarterbacks coming from this draft, especially Bryce Young after last season getting hot late in the year. But so far, Will Levis is out, and Anthony Richardson is one bad season away from being out himself. So Daniel Jones, I mean, he was unceremoniously booted out of New York after a disastrous tenure last season. And then he goes to the Vikings. He doesn't play, he sits. And I think that might have been more for his benefit. And now he's in Indianapolis. So that's going to be a situation that we're going to monitor here as we get going. And another domino that I want to get into is Aaron Rodgers. So right now, I say that the two favorites to land Rodgers is the New York Giants and the Pittsburgh Steelers. And at first, we thought it was going to be a package deal with him and Devontae Adams, but Clearly, Devontae Adams answered that question as he agreed to a deal with the Rams, which is an incredible signing, by the way. But look at Aaron Rodgers. I think from situational standpoint, I think the better option for him might be Pittsburgh. I mean, they just traded for DK Metcalf. You still got George Pickens. And the Giants, I mean, I believe the Giants are pretty much on their way into another rebuild as Joe Shane, the general manager, and Dayball and Brian Dayball, the coach, they could very well get fired after this season. And I mean, and I've heard a lot of talk too about the Giants potentially signing Jameis Winston. I mean, no. Just no. I mean, I love Jameis Winston as a person, but as a player, he's not a good quarterback. He's the only quarterback, I believe, in NFL history to throw for 5,000 yards, 30 touchdowns, and 30 picks in a season. I mean, my gosh, we were making jokes about Jameis last year when he was with the Browns, being the only quarterback we know who can literally throw for 500 yards, 5 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions in a game. But nevertheless, I really would like to see Aaron Rodgers in a situation with the Pittsburgh Steelers and, of course, with their coach, Mike Tomlin. Now, the Steelers, they're with Rodgers or pretty much anybody, they're just going to win their 9 games and get bounced in the wild card round like they do every year. So a couple of wide receiver moves, I addressed a couple of them with DK Metcalf with the Steelers and Devontae Adams with the Rams. A couple more that I was interested in. DeAndre Hopkins agreeing to a deal with the Baltimore Ravens, giving Lamar Jackson another weapon, even though literally it's just another piece to at least try to have a chance to beat the Chiefs, because literally that's all the AFC is doing. They're literally them, the Bills, and the Bengals, who right now I don't even know if they have any idea what they're doing. Literally making these moves just to beat the Chiefs. I mean, this is pretty much what we see with dynasties as far as that's concerned, but it's really just a matter of can they get it done with all of these weapons that they're adding. So that's going to be a thing to monitor here as we keep it going. And Deebo Samuel heading to the Commanders via trade, another weapon for Jaden Daniels. Now, I tweeted this out on my Twitter at CW Talk Sports, that's CWTALKS Sports. The Commanders were already a contender before this trade. They get Deebo Samuel from the Commanders, and they get Laramie Tunsil, who's one of the best O linemen in the NFL. They get him from the Texans. The Commanders, we're going to have a conversation about the Commanders because this team is really, really good, and they're really tooling up. So that's a conversation we'll have to have. And I covered Hopkins to the Ravens, and yeah, I covered all of that from the receiver standpoint. And the defense, some defensive moves that I had my eye on. Xavier Woods heading to the Titans from my Carolina Panthers, who has played pretty much. Who is very much an Iron Man. He definitely plays a lot, and he's a pretty good corner in the league, so that's pretty good there. And Justin Reed heading to the Saints by way of the Chiefs, and Leonard Floyd from the Niners going to the Falcons, and then Joey Bosa after his tenure in LA with the Chargers heading to the Bills. And my Carolina Panthers, we've been retooling our defense after a historically bad season on defense. We just re-signed J.C. Horn, made him, I believe, the highest paid corner in the league, if I'm not mistaken. We re-signed Mike Jackson to the deal, and we also signed Tershawn Wharton, Trayvon Moring, Patrick Jones, and Bobby Brown III to deals. So, and of course, with the draft coming up, I see a lot of draft boards have my Panthers taking Mason Graham out of Michigan with, I believe, the 8th overall pick. But I definitely know that this offseason, the Panthers are going to be focusing on defense because I think our offensive, I want to think anyway, our offense is in good shape. We just said goodbye to Miles Sanders, and you know what? Rightfully so, because Miles Sanders signed that 4-year deal and has done a grand whopping nothing in Carolina. So There we go with Carolina. And a big thing that I want to get into is the 49ers. Like they've said goodbye to a lot of players so far this offseason. Obviously, we just talked about them trading Deebo Samuel, but they're also cutting Kyle Juszczyk, Leonard Floyd, Javon Hargrave, and Malik Collins. And also saying goodbye to Dre Greenlaw, Travarius Ward, Talona Hafunga, Aaron Brooks, Jalen Moore, Elijah Mitchell, and Demarcus Robinson. Now, listen, we knew already that Deebo Samuel was in all likelihood going to be out of there because Brock Purdy, their quarterback, is due for a contract, and he's already said that he wants top of the market quarterback money. And unfortunately, this is a salary cap league. Unlike baseball, you can't keep all the players on a roster there. So you're definitely going to have to say goodbye to some key players, some good key players here, but they've lost a lot of players. And I mean, after that disastrous season that they've had last year, you would have to think that the 49ers could be staring maybe a rebuild in the face with all the players that they're losing. And you would have to think if they do go ahead and go the route of a rebuild, that they're probably going to put Brandon Ayuk on the block as well. But that is a very interesting situation going on there with the San Francisco 49ers. Now, do I think that they're really in a rebuild? I don't want to think they are, but we're definitely going to have to monitor that. And of course, everything that goes on as well as this, as far as the offseason is concerned. And the Eagles defense looking like they're going to be retooling their defense, saying goodbye to Josh Sweat, Milton Williams, Isaiah Rodgers, Darius Slay, James Bradbury, and CJ Gardner Johnson. So that's definitely a thing to monitor with Philadelphia just coming off of their Super Bowl run this past season. And how about Myles Garrett? I mean, my gosh. So obviously Super Bowl week, the two biggest stories coming out of Super Bowl week, number one obviously was the Anthony Davis Luka trade, but the other story that was kind of in the weeds here was Myles Garrett requesting a trade, and him pretty much putting out that statement, not really wanting to go from Cleveland to Canton and always wanted to win. And I even said, we'll see what happens because I thought he was going to get traded. Well, clearly that's not going to be the case as he literally had a change of heart. And you want to know why he had a change of heart? Because he agreed to a 4-year, $160 million deal, which pays out $40 million a year. And not only that, 123.5 mil guaranteed. So yeah, apparently Garrett had no more guaranteed money on his deal. So apparently this was a leverage move by Garrett. I mean, I don't really like the fact that he made a whole big deal appearing on a whole bunch of these places on Radio Row talking about his time in Cleveland is over and he's wanting to win. And Cleveland, and along with that, the owners declining a meeting with Garrett. And I said, oh, yeah, this thing might mess around and turn ugly. He might mess around and hold out until he gets a trade. And then this happens. I mean, come on. Come on. Well, I mean, then again, it's just like a thing in sports. Whenever a player gets an offer he couldn't refuse, he's going to take it. Now, I'm not mad at him. I'm not really mad at him for taking the deal. Like, go ahead and get your money, but get your money, bro. But at the same time, you make a whole deal about wanting to win and wanting to get out of Cleveland, and you got something like this happening. I mean, that's crazy there when you think about it as far as that's concerned. But yeah, like I said, the new league year begins at 4 p.m. and we'll definitely see more moves come along as far as that's concerned in the NFL. All right, a little bit of significant baseball news that I want to get into, and it's the New York Yankees who have been dealing with a few big injuries as of late. We learned earlier in the week that Garrett Cole, their ace, is done for the year with a UCL tear, and he's going to need Tommy John surgery for that. And look at all the other injuries. Giancarlo Stanton having elbow injuries that are being considered severe and could miss the season. DJ LeMahieu with a calf injury, and Luis Hill missing time too with an injury. And a lot of Yankee fans are really screaming doom and gloom for all of these injuries. And I believe in the sports books, the Yankees win total went down from like 91 to like 89, depending on wherever you get your book from. But as much as the Yankees fans want to consider this thing doom and gloom and they might be screwed and all of that, I mean, they made a lot of acquisitions too in the offseason. They acquired Devin Williams, who's really considered one of the best closers in baseball. They agreed to a deal with Max Fried. They got Fernando Cruz. They got Tim Hill for their bullpen. And they also got Tyler Matzik, the hero of the Braves during their World Series run on a minor league contract. They also got Paul Goldschmidt, and Cody Bellinger to deals as well. But yeah, But at the same time, they also lost Juan Soto and Gleyber Torres and Nestor Cortez, which are kind of some significant losses there. And right now, we don't know the status of Anthony Rizzo or Alex Verdugo. But listen, do I think that the Yankees are going to make the World Series? Realistically, no. Do I think the Yankees are still going to be fine? Yeah. I mean, they already said, according to an SI article, that they're not going to be looking for an ace this season. But I think the Yankees, with all of these acquisitions and, of course, retooling their bullpen, I think the Yankees are going to be just fine. I mean, yeah, a lot of big injuries, but they're the Yankees. I'm sure they're going to definitely find a way to win their games and make the postseason as far as that is concerned. And speaking of, oh, we got some more news here in the NFL as Marquez Valdez-Scantling is signing with the Seahawks on a one-year deal. So that's a little bit of an interesting move there, as I believe Seattle is in a rebuild. But back to the notes at hand. Um, Speaking of injuries, Tiger Woods. What misfortune for Tiger Woods. I mean, just a couple of days ago, I believe yesterday or a couple of days ago, he announced that he ruptured his Achilles and he had surgery for it. Now, listen, I've been pounding the drum for a little while, ever since I believe 2021, that I believe that Tiger Woods has maybe won his last major. And I mean, look at the injuries from the last 4 years alone. In January 2021, he had back surgery. In February of 2021, he suffered a broken tibia and fibula from that car accident. And then in April of 2023, he had ankle surgery after somehow making the cut at the Masters. In September of 2024, he had another back surgery due to a nerve issue, and now he ruptures his Achilles. Now listen, I remember a couple of years ago, over the last couple of years, if we're being honest, seeing him at these majors, and Tiger has been just plain bad at these majors. I mean, not only bad, but you can very well say that he's been painful to watch. I mean, seeing him walk up and down, knowing all the injuries and the back surgeries and the leg surgeries that he's had. I mean, my goodness. I mean, he's making this 2019 Masters Championship look like an eternity ago. I mean, now listen, like I said, I believe Tiger Woods has won his last major. And I really do believe that right now, especially after another leg injury and another surgery, that Tiger Woods seriously needs to consider hanging it up. as far as golf, as far as majors are concerned. All right, let's get into the college basketball here, as right now we are in conference championship week. Right now in the ACC currently going on, we got Virginia taking on Georgia Tech. And then later on today, we've got Notre Dame and North Carolina, who, if you remember, North Carolina, my Tar Heels, won on an Elliott Cadeau 4-point play and scored 6 points in the last 22 seconds of that game. And currently, according to the bracketology, North Carolina is a first four out team right now. And right now, I want to believe that um, if we do make the semifinal of the ACC championship, if we make the ACC semifinal, I think we'll just have enough to squeeze in, but that's the case. We have to make the ACC semifinal, and I think right now we would have to play Duke for a third time this season, if I remember it correctly. But North Carolina, we've got the matchup against Notre Dame. And if we win that one, then we face Wake Forest tomorrow in the quarterfinal. And I think we beat Wake Forest this year. I want to think we did. I got to look at that later. But here's the thing. If we lose to Notre Dame and let's just say we beat Notre Dame. If we lose to Wake Forest tomorrow, we're definitely out of the tournament, and rightfully so. Because, yeah, Duke in all likelihood is going to win the ACC and be the one of the favorites probably to head to the Final Four. But UNC, I mean, we've had this hot run as of late, and you're really going to end this run losing to either Notre Dame or Wake Forest? I mean, I really hope that's not the case. I really think North Carolina should. I want to think anyway, we're good enough to make the semifinal. And if that's the case, then I think we'll have a legitimate shot at making the NCAA tournament. And then we've got Cal and Stanford. I mean, what kind of world is this? Cal and Stanford playing in the ACC and in the ACC tournament? Hey, that's just college sports in 2025, I guess, folks. And then you've got Syracuse coming off the win yesterday against Florida State, ending Leonard Hamilton's legendary coaching career after 23 years, matching up against SMU. And then in the SEC, you've got South Carolina taking on Arkansas, and South Carolina only having 2 wins in the SEC in the regular season. And ironically, one of those wins coming against Arkansas, and John Calipari kind of having a bit of a disappointing season with his new home in Fayetteville after all that time in Kentucky, going 8-10 on the season. I thought Arkansas would be a little better than how they were, but clearly that has not been the case there. And then you've got Texas and Vanderbilt, where you can very much see that that's a must-win game there for Texas, because if Texas loses that game, there's a realistic chance that their coach, Rodney Terry, is going to get fired. I mean, he had an incredible run in the NCAA tournament a couple of years ago as an interim. They take the interim tag off of Terry, and so far he's done nothing with Texas. I mean, so that's going to be a game to monitor there as far as that situation. And then you've got LSU taking on Mississippi State. And then you have Oklahoma playing Georgia. And then in the Big Ten, you've got Northwestern taking on Minnesota, Iowa, and Ohio State, who's another team that's a first four out. And I think right now they're the 69th team as far as that's concerned. USC and Rutgers. And then in the Big 12, you've got Cincinnati and Iowa State, Colorado taking on West Virginia, Kansas State taking on Baylor, and then you've got Kansas. I believe UCF won that game. I'm not for sure. But you've got the Kansas game later on there as far as the Yeah, UCF did beat Utah. So you've got that one going on, UCF and Utah, as far as the Big 12 is concerned. And then you've got the Big East, Butler taking on Providence, DePaul taking on Georgetown, and then Seton Hall against Villanova. And right now you've got 11 automatic bids for the NCAA tournament. You've got Lipscomb coming out of the ASUN conference. You got High Point going to their very first NCAA tournament against the Big South. You've got UNC Wilmington winning the CAA. You've got Robert Morris. Let's go, Bobby Moe coming out of Horizon. I'm really hoping that that is going to be our Cinderella team for the tournament. You've got Drake once again going to the tournament coming out of Missouri Valley. You've got St. Francis coming from the Northeast. You've got SIUE, Southern Illinois, Evansville winning the Ohio Valley. You've got Wofford winning the Southern. You've got Omaha winning the Summit League. I mean, they were going to win that league anyway because St. Thomas, who they played in the championship, was not eligible. And then you've got Troy winning the Sun Belt and Gonzaga last night with a win against St. Mary's, who's also going to get in anyway. So right now you've got 11 automatic bids with 3 more to be decided later today. You've got Lamar taking on McNeese. You've got Navy against American in the Patriot League. And you got Montana and Northern Colorado in the Big Sky. And the Lamar McNeese game is to decide the Southland Conference. Well, friends, that is going to do it for the sports rundown. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and be sure to follow me on Twitter and on Bluesky at CW Talk Sports. That's CWTALKS Sports. And I will see y'all the next time. Peace.